So once you finally load it into Section 8B, you should be greeted with the first question, B0. The information you're going to be reporting is going to be related to your water system's income and expenses. And we just want to capture if this income and expenses is related to a calendar year or a fiscal year of your definition. So if you select calendar year, it'll automatically assume, like, obviously it's going to be the previous calendar year from January 1st to December 31st. But if you select fiscal year, you can actually define what that fiscal year start date is for yourself using the month, day, year format. So for this example, we'll just say calendar year to make it easier for ourselves. Okay. So for B1, basically it's going to be asking you generalized questions about your water system's revenue from different sources. So B1.1, what is the total revenue you collect from your water rates for residential customers only? Now, this is specifically related to how much income you're coming from related to water consumption charges. So your customer rates and charges. I don't believe we're not looking for other incorporated data into this part. So like you don't want to incorporate if you charge them like for garbage and including like on top of their utility and stuff like that. You just want the straight number from their water rates alone. So we'll say for our calendar year, we get $1,000 from our customers. We have a very small system. For B1.3, this is going to be like where you incorporate those other fees and charges related to your water rates. So instead of just being straight water rates revenue, now you can incorporate other utility charges that you give to your customers. And we do have examples below, such as late fees, notice fees, penalties, and shutoff fees that are incorporated into those water rate charges. And then B1.5, basically, if your water system, anyone scrolling back up? Basically, if your water system received revenue from like a local county due to property sales or general grants from the general fund, you'd want to incorporate them here. So we'll say for this one, we'll do stormwater tax or fee. And then you want to just write down the total amount you gained from that revenue. And then you could also type in how much revenue that was transferred out of your system towards the county or other governmental offices due to these fees. So we'll say we gained 100, but we transferred out 50. And then this B1.7 is just to capture anything else that's that you generate revenue from your customers that's not related to water rates or late fees. So anything else you want to capture here, and you can give a description as to what this amount is related to. Yeah, like a cell tower. And then it'll auto-calculate or auto-summarize what you have inputted and basically give you what we think is going to be your total annual revenue for the reporting year. And then in B1.9, so this is that table that gives you that where all of the data you inputted in will produce an outcome. I'm kind of glad we got an error because this helps us walk through a troubleshooting scenario. So with B1.9, we've incorporated a lot of like yellow to red flags that indicate that there's probably a problem going on with your water rate and how it was reported. So for this instance, we got a red flag saying that our water rate is exceptionally high because now we're saying that we charge customers $500 or greater than $500 for water. And as you can see, there's different tiers, 6 to 24 HCF. Basically, it auto-calculates the amount you would charge a customer for your water system at 600 cubic feet of water consumption for a month. And so the auto-calculation is saying that we're charging customers $26,000 per month for 600 cubic feet of water. So the way we'd go about fixing this is to say, you could either do an alternative amount if you don't want to go through the rigmarole of going back and trying to troubleshoot, or if you can't figure out how to troubleshoot. And you can provide an alternative amount. We'll say like, no, that looks completely wrong. If we were going to charge customers 600 cubic feet of water for a month, I'd say we charge them like, I don't know, $300. So you could type in the 300 and you can write a comment saying, auto calculation is incorrect. This is how much we would charge. Please see rate structure submitted or something like that. And what we'll do is that whenever we utilize these water rates, typically we'll take your alternative amount over your auto-calculated amount. just for QA/QC sake. But we would prefer if you would actually go in and describe or go in and work with the table to give us like a more accurate result. So for this example, Wendy, if you don't mind, we're going to go back to A1.A, or my bad, to 8A, section 8A to fix that error. So it looks like our water rate is exceptionally high. So we're charging $26,000, I believe. So that might just be an issue with that might be the actual number depending on the fake numbers we inputted. So I think a better way to fix this would probably be just to use 1,000 gallons instead of just gallons. Okay, I believe that's a problem because yes, six like 100 cubic feet. I just googled it. It's about 4,500 gallons. So we might be our quick example might be a little bit too high. So if you go back to eight, there we go. Did you just select 1,000 gallons?
Yes.
Okay, got you. So that might not always be the issue, but that's one I see as a very common one is whenever you're reporting things in gallons, typically there might be a mistake with like how you actually think you're reporting compared to like what's going to be represented. So for this case, switching it to 1,000 gallons seems to fix the issue. If that looks more reasonable, let's say like it wasn't $300, it was $20. That makes sense to us. And we can actually do this calculation on the back end if you ever feel kind of like weary about it. Basically, you would just go back and say, when you might go back to the table in 8A. Okay, so for our example, we were asking for 6 HCF. So basically, that's going to be a water consumption past our 200. Well, since we switched it to 1,000 gallons now, we're reading this as our top unit of measure for our first year is going to be 100,000 gallons. So 6 HCF is 4,500 gallons. So we're going to be in the tier 1 category. So now we're going to be charging $10 up to 100 gallons. So it's going to be $2 per gallon. So basically, to be 2 times 4,500 plus $10. Or I guess it would be 2 times 4.5 because it would be 6 HCF is technically 4.5 thousand gallons. So that would be 9 plus 10. So it'd be about $19. Now remember, it's not technically 4,500. It's 488 point something. So it would basically be 4.5 times 2 because that's how much we're charging per unit. So that's 4.5 times 2 plus the $10 base rate. So that should give us that $20 outcome you saw on the back end there. And then if we could go back to 8B. The table can be a little tricky to think about, mostly because of those unit of measure questions. So sometimes it might just be easier to just start over and think and convert everything that you're reporting in the same unit of measure. That's just like a very common problem I've seen. But like I said, if you don't feel like going through all that trouble or you don't feel like reporting the whole thing, you could still provide an alternative amount that we will utilize. But doesn't mean that we're not going to review what documents you submitted and reach out to you to get a cleaner, better understanding because we do want to utilize the eAR to its full extent and get a very accurate reading of what your water system wants to represent. So after B1.9, then we're going to be asked how much, what are the number of days of cash on hand that you have for your water system? Now, this isn't a monetary amount. This is literally the number of days that your water system has to pay for all of its infrastructure until it can no longer pay it. So let's say you have a reserve fund of $100 and you have a maintenance fee of $1 per day. So with that in mind, you would say my number of days of cash on hand is technically 100 because I only have enough money to sustain my water system for that 100 days within my reserve fund, if that makes sense. I've just seen some confusion as to whether people think that's like the amount of the reserve fund, but no, it's specifically like the actual number of days. And then you can always provide a comment on your revenue in B1.1 1. Now, from Gain to expenses. This is where you can report how much revenue your water system has lost annually. The first is going to be for operations and maintenance expenses. That should just be like your standard, the standard wear and tear of a water system operating throughout the year and how much that costs for the water system. And you just want to put down the flat expense fee. You don't want to incorporate any kind of boost into like how much revenue was gained compared to how much was lost. We do that towards the end. So for now, we're going to say, yeah, it costs us $100 to keep our water system operating at a basic level for our calendar year. How much money we've invested into the water system. That could be things like, sorry. So that could be things such as like equipment or new assets that you've built into your water system, like having a new pump installed or having new filtration devices included into or incorporated to your water system. Anything that you've done to invest into the quality or functionality of water system that costs the system itself money, you'd want to reflect there. Total financing activity expenses. I believe this one is related. Yeah, this one's related to long-term debt, purchases, and securities. I'm most familiar with 2.3. I think, well, there's a good example, actually. If you're not super familiar with what's going on, you can always look at those little question marks next to them. We'll go to this one. And it should provide you a quick explanation as to what this is. Like if I wasn't too sure what finance-related expenses are, it could give me a quick snippet here. It looks like it was just retirement of long-term debt, purchase of securities, interest expenses. And it gives you an example if you do not have anything related to that. You could always provide a zero amount. And if you're still not sure, feel free to reach out and we can troubleshoot it together. Every water system is unique, so sometimes specific problems will come up from a specific system, and we just have to look through the documents to get a better understanding of what we should be reporting. And then in the end, it'll summarize all of your expenses together and give you a total amount down below. I believe I skipped over. You can also provide other expenses, obviously, and provide a note as to what those expenses relate to. And it should add them up below. Now, you will get a warning if your expenses exceeds your revenue. I don't believe it prevents you from stopping or for submitting your report, but it will give you a quick yellow flag saying that you are losing more money each year than you are gaining. So that might be an indication of your water system, perhaps financially not doing so well. It's not a definitive declaration. It could just be an issue with how it's being reported, or maybe what we're asking for doesn't reflect the true nature of your system's income. But it is something to keep in mind that it will be flagged.